Arms are not just like any other export goods, because arms can be used to kill people or to suppress opposition. So when it comes to exporting arms, we need to look at it super carefully. The European Union, if you take all member states together, is the second biggest arms supplier in the world. The EU actually has a common position on where we export arms and where we don't export arms. And in this position we have 8 very clear criteria. Like, for example, arms should not go to countries that may violate human rights. The problem is that we have these common rules, but every member state interprets these rules in very different ways. And if you look at which weapons are actually going out of the EU to the world, we have a very disparate settings. Most of them at the moment end up in the Middle East. And if you need one proof that more weapons do not make a region more secure, just need to look there. And for me, the most dramatic case is Yemen, where a country and such a wonderful culture is basically bombed back to Stone Age, and where we know that European weapons are heavily involved in doing that. So on the one side, it's member states who decide about arms exports. But on the other side, in most arms production, it's not just one member state, but it's many. So one example is the Eurofighter. The Eurofighter is a production of France, Germany and the UK. But what do we do if Germany says we don't export arms to Saudi Arabia, but France continues to export, but we have this Eurofighter that has parts of both? So it remains unclear as of now who would then make the export decision. And because it's unclear, we see a race to the bottom where basically the countries with the least restrictive export regulations decide over the export, undermining what me as a German citizen, for example, I want to see. For me, it's key that we have transparency when it comes to arms export, so that we actually know which arms are exported, where, and who is using them. Because that is the only way we can have a public debate whether this is the kind of export we want or whether this is the kind of export we really need to stop. Second, we really need to know where and what for our arms are being used. Are they being used by a legitimate police? Or do they end up in the hands of terrorist groups, as they often do? Third, we have a common market inside the European Union, and we have common export policy for all goods, except for arms. And now that we see more and more cooperation between EU member states when it comes to arms production, and even EU budget going into arms production, I really think we also need to regulate this field on the European level, just to make sure that every company and every country is playing along the same rules. And lastly, we really need to make this legally binding. This means that we, as politicians or citizens, can take companies or member states to court if they break these rules. Because at the moment, in most countries, this is impossible. So I'm working in Parliament and with many civil society organizations to make sure that we make progress on all of these issues. And I'm also pressuring the Commission and the member states that in the end we will have a proper EU regulation that implements all of this. Because we see that in general 80% of the population are against these exports, but there is no change. So bring your voice to the streets, write letters, write emails, pressure, push, question, hold them accountable for what they do.